Begin the Gemara today on the bottom of Daf Pei Beis Amud Beis, the last two words. The Gemara here goes back on what it said in the Mishnah that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon said regarding an androgynous Akayin that married a Bas Yisrael that she can eat truma like every Bas Yisrael that marries a Kayin. And the reason is because this androgynous is considered to be a Zachar. And according to Rav, what Rabbi Yossi was saying, and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon that is, was saying in the Mishnah, is that this androgynous is a Vadai Zachar, and therefore his wife, even a Bas Yisrael, can eat even truma min atayra. So on this, Rav said, Omar Rav, lesel masnisim mikamei braisa. We don't follow what it says in the Mishnah because of what it says in the Braisa. The Tanya, because in the Braisa we learned that Rabbi Yossi's opinion is different. Rabbi Yossi said, androgynous beria b'fnei atzmehu, that an androgynous is a creature for himself. And v'leichriu bechachamim im zacharim nekeva. And Chachamim did not come to a conclusion whether this androgynous, is a zachar or a nekeva, or he or she, or whether he or she is a zachar or a nekeva. So this is unlike the Mishnah. In the Mishnah it said that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon both said that he's definitely a zachar. Frag the Gemara, Adarabba, on the contrary, lesa lebraisa mikamei masnisin. We should say that we don't follow the Braisa because of the Mishnah. A Mishnah is always more reliable than a Braisa. And it says the Gemara, midishavke Rabbi Yossi lebarzugei, because we see that Rabbi Yossi here is brought in the Braisa that he alone is saying this, that an androgynous is a beri b'fnei atzma, shma mina hadabe. So we see that Rabbi Yossi retracted of what he said in the Mishnah. If the Tana of the Braisa would disagree with the Tana of the Mishnah, with the way the Tana of the Mishnah quoted that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon say that he's a Vadai Zachar, and the Tana of the Braisa was coming to quote that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon hold differently, so then he should have brought that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon both hold differently. But he doesn't say that. He just said that, he just brings that Rabbi Yossi says that he's a beri b'fnei atzmai. So that shows that he's quoting what Rabbi Yossi said himself, that Rabbi Yossi retracted of what he said in the Mishnah, and now he holds that he's only a beri b'fnei atzmai. Shmuel says, no, lesa lebraisa mikamei masnisin. We don't follow what it says here in this Braisa that the androgynous is a suffix because of the Mishnah, where we have Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon that both say that he's a Vadei Zachar. We should say that we don't follow what it says in the Mishnah because of the opinion of Rabbi Yossi here in this Braisa. Why? The Hashamina Leila Shmuel. We've heard before that Shmuel said, and we had this earlier here in this Masechta, the Chayish li Yichida, that when it comes to halacha min atayra, Shmuel, that is concerned about even a single opinion to be machmer by a subject min atayra. So over here, when it comes to eating truma, why would Shmuel not be machmer like the single opinion that we have here in the Braisa that this androgynous is a zachar? So we have to be machmer that his wife of Bas Yisrael should not be able to eat truma min atayra. And says the Gemara, Hanimili, when are we stringent to follow a single opinion when it's a chumrah for a min atayra? Kila misakra masnisin. When this opinion is not going against what it says in the Mishnah. Avol ki misakra masnisin, but if it does go against what it says in the Mishnah, loy chayish. Then even Shmuel does not pay attention to this opinion, even when it's regarding a halacha min atayra. Amri bei Rav, mishmei de Rav. It was said at the yeshiva of Rav, in the name of Rav, the Gemara will soon say that this is Rav Huna. Halacha Rabbi Yossi b'androgynous. We do paskin like Rabbi Yossi regarding androgynous, and what he means to say here is that we paskin like Rabbi Yossi of the Mishnah, with that said that an androgynous is a Vadei Zachar. So that's not what we quoted before that Rav said. And here Rav Huna is quoting differently in the name of Rav. Ubar Kova. Another thing also, we paskin like Rabbi Yossi regarding the halacha of Arkova, which is grafting, as the Gemara will soon explain, as it relates to Shemitah. Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel said, Bekoishi u'bekiddush, when it comes to the halacha of koishi, which is the labor pains of a woman that sees blood in that time, and when it comes to kiddush, which is the halacha of klayim, which will all be brought soon in the Gemara. So over there, the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. So as Rashi points out, the reason why these halachas over here specifically are being brought now to say that the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, because over here Rabbi Yossi is speaking about these halachas not alone, but together with Rabbi Shimon, like he was quoted in our Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon together said the halacha regarding androgynous, so by these halachas as well, it's Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon. So what are all these cases? Androgynous, hadamar. Androgynous is the case we're speaking about from the Mishnah. Harkava, the case of Harkava is by Shemitah. The Tanan, so we learned in the Mishnah Masechta Shvius, Einoitin, Veimarkiven, you can't plant, Mavrichen that is. You can't also pull down a branch and put it into the ground that it should grow a new tree. Veimarkiven, and you're not allowed to graft. Erev Shvius, Pachas Mishleishim Yayim, Lefnei Rosh Hashanah. Before Shemitah, 30 days before Rosh Hashanah. Because if it's less than 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, then it's going to take root within Shemitah itself. And that's not allowed. If he did plant or graft or so on, so then yakar. So then Chachamim gave him a knas that he has to uproot this. So that's the shiur that Tanna Kama says. No, it can't be less than 30 days within Shemitah. Rabbi Yehuda said, Kol arkove she'eina keiletes b'shloish yamim. Any time you're grafting and it does not take root within 3 days, shuv eni keiletes. It doesn't take root again. So it's 3 days is as long it takes to take root. And if that's true by arkove, Rabbi Yossi is speaking about arkove, but it's the same thing by mavrich and by neteya, most definitely. So Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Shimon say shtei Shabbosos, 2 weeks. That's how long it takes to take root. Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman, in the name of Rabbi Baravua, clarified the pshat of this Mishnah. The opinion that says that it's 30 days before Shemitah, so really, in reality, tzarech shloishim v'shloishim. You're going to need 30 and another 30 days before Shemitah. And that is because, as Rashi here brings, before Shemitah, there is a halacha of Taisvus Shvius that you learn from Bacharish Bakatze Tishbais that already 30 days before Shemitah, you're not allowed to do any of these works of Shemitah. So it can't take root already within 30 days before Shemitah. So therefore you only are allowed to plant 30 days before those 30 days before Shemitah. And L'divrei Ayimeh Shloisha, according to the opinion of Yehuda that says that it takes 3 days to take root, so then Tzarech Shloisha Ushloishim, so then it's the 3 days before the 30 days before Shemitah. L'divrei Ayimeh Shtei Shabbosos, the opinion of Yossi and Rabbi Shimon that said 2 weeks, Tzarech Shtei Shabbosos Ushloishim, so then it's 2 weeks and then the 30 days before Shemitah. So this is the halacha of Harkaveh that Rav said that the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. Shmuel said Bekoishi v'Kiddush that the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi regarding the halacha of Koishi and Kiddush. Koishi, the halacha regarding Koishi that now we learned in the Mishnah in Nida. So here this Mishnah, I'm not going to go through all the details there. We'll learn it in Mitzvah Shem and Masechta Nida. But the point here is that a woman after she gives birth, whether a zachar or a nekeva, there are certain days that are called Yemei Toyar. That when she sees blood in that time period, it is not blood that makes her tamei and she's mutter to her husband. But this is only if, before she gave birth, she did not become a zava. She did not see blood in that time period that makes her a zava. But if she saw blood before she gave birth as a zava, then the halacha of Yemei Tayar, that kula of Yemei Tayar, does not apply. So now we have to determine regarding blood that she saw before she gave birth, whether she is a zava from before birth or not. But this is also dependent on something else. As Rashi here brings, that any blood that she sees before she gives birth, so if it's blood in connection to the labor pains, it's already going into the labor of the birth, so then that does not make her into a zava. So then she's not a zava from before birth. But if she sees blood before, not connected to the labor pains, then she becomes a zava before birth, and then the halacha of Yemei Tayar after birth will not apply. So that's what this Mishnah is about. We're trying to determine at what point is the blood that she sees and before birth considered to be the days of the kaishi, that is the labor pains already, and therefore she does not become a zava. As Rashi brings the pasuk ki yazav zoiv dama, that it's only if it's dama because of being a zav, and not dama because of labor of birth. And that does not make her into a zava. So what is that time period? What is that time period connected to the birth? Kama yehei kishuya. How long is this time of the kishuya of the labor pains for birth? Rab Meir says, oy arbaim, oy chamishim yom, or 40 or 50 days. That's the length of time. In that time period, we say that the blood is not blood of a zava, but it's connected to the labor pains. Rab Yehuda says, daya chocha. It's enough that we look at the month that she's giving birth. In other words, if from that Rish Chodesh, so in the 9th month when she's giving birth, from Rish Chodesh, that in that time after that Rish Chodesh, if you saw any blood, it's not Demei Ziva, it's not blood of a Zav, it's blood connected to the birth. So Rashi says it's connected to Rish Chodesh. So anytime she gives birth in this month, it could be she's giving birth Beis in the month, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, whatever day. So it could be just a few days, or it could be she's giving birth at the end of the month. Anytime in this month from after Rish Chodesh, that blood she sees is connected to the birth. And interesting, what's the reason for this? So Rashi says because Bezdin then would blow a shofar on Rish Chodesh, and that shofar that Bezdin blows can cause it to give birth. And therefore, from after the Rish Chodesh, we say that any blood she sees is connected to the birth. Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon say, "En kishu Yossi mishtei Shabbosos." The kishoy, the labor pains, is not more than 2 weeks, and only in that period of 2 weeks do we say that this is blood connected to the birth. Kiddush. What is the halacha? So bad. Before I go to Kiddush, this is the case where Shmuel said the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon. Kiddush, the case of Kiddush, which as I said before, is regarding Kilayim. Kiddush regarding Kilayim is the term used to aser Kilayim. So that now we learned in the Mishnah as follows. A person brings over, like schach, his vineyard over the grain of his friend in his friend's field. Kiddush. So this that he did here makes the tvua aser, the vineyard and the tvua will all become aser because now it's klayim. V'chayev v'chriyus, and he has to take responsibility for this. He's going to have to reimburse his friend for the loss that he caused him by this. Divrei Rab Meir, this is Rab Meir's opinion. Rab Yossi, Rab Shimon Oimrim. Rab Yossi and Rab Shimon say, Ein adam oiser davar she'eina shalai. A person cannot aser something that's not his. So him bringing over his vineyard into his friend's field, and now there's the klayim here, is not going to cause an isser because it's his friend's field, and you can't cause this kind of isser. Taisus points out, we don't say such a concept regarding all these surim that you can't aser your friend's things. If you're going to go and throw an avela into your friend's pot, it's going to be aser. You're not going to say that you can go and eat it because it's your friend's. But over here, the halacha of kalaim is unique because there's an element of machshava, of the person's thought, that plays a role in making the kalaim aser, as Taisus explains. So here, your thought cannot cause that your friend's field should become aser. But regarding any other isurim, we don't say this klal. So this was the halacha that Shmuel also said that the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. The question was asked, Bandregenis Maliyam Shmuel. What did Shmuel say regarding Androgenis? We said before that Rav paskent like Rabbi Yossi regarding Androgenis. What did Shmuel say regarding Androgenis? Toshema, so here I'll prove this to you. Dama Shmuel Ravanan. Shmuel said to Ravanan, and some Tekat Ravanan, we had this before in Amar Aleph, what Shmuel said, that Lesa Lebraisa Mekamei Masnissen, that we don't pay attention to the Braisa because of our Mishnah. In our Mishnah we have Rabbi Yossi that said that the Androgenis is Avadai Zachar, so we see that he paskins like Rabbi Yossi in our Mishnah, just like Rav. Or at least just like Rav, what Rav Huna said in the name of Rav. Harkove Maliyam Shmuel. We said before what Rav holds regarding Harkove, what does Shmuel hold regarding that halacha of Harkove? Tashema, I'll prove this to you. Damalei Shmuel Ravanan. Shmuel said Ravanan, Tni Kemandama Shloisha Ushloishin. You should teach like the opinion that says that it's 33 days before Shemitah that you're not allowed to plant and so on. So that's actually not the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, I believe. Okay, so here it is not paskin like Rabbi Yossi. Kaishi, Mali Amarav. So we said regarding the halacha of Kaishi, what are the days of the labor that the blood then is not from Zava? So we know what Shmuel said, that we paskin like Rabbi Yossi. What did Rav say? So the Gemara says, Teiku, we can't prove one way or another what Rav said about this. Kiddush, regarding the halacha of here, of the Kiddush, when a person causes his friend's field to become Kalayim, Mali Amarav, what did Rav say about this? Amarav Yosef, so Rav Yosef said, Tashema, I'll prove this to you. Dam Ravuna Marav, Rav Huna said in the name of Rav, Ein halacha Rav Yossi. Regarding this halacha here, we do not paskin like Rav Yossi, we paskin like Rav Meir, the Tanakama. Amalei Abaye, so Abaye said to Rav Yosef, My chazis the samchas aha. Why are you relying on what Rav Huna said in the name of Rav that we don't paskin like Rav Yossi? Smeicha, maybe rely on another statement that another Amir said. Dam Rav Ada Amarav, Rav Ada said in the name of Rav, halacha Rav Yossi, that we do paskin like Rav Yossi here. So the Gemara answers, Amri Beirav Manu. Before we were quoting that Beirav, that Amri Beirav. Who is this Amri Beirav? That was said in the yeshiva of Rav. Rav Huna, this is Rav Huna. And Rav Huna Amayin Halacha. So that's why I'm quoting you here that Rav Huna is the one that said in the name of Rav that we don't paskin regarding this like Rav Yossi. So as Rashi explains, the Gemara's suffix over here, when it was asking the question, what does Rav hold regarding this halacha of Kilayim, was because since Amri de Beirav, Rav Huna that is, said regarding these two halachas of Androgenis and Arkava that halacha is like Rav Yossi. So the question is, could we deduce from that itself that regarding Kiddush, regarding Klein Kiddush, the halacha is not like Rav Yossi? Or maybe not. So that's why we're proving this dafka from what Rav Huna said, because we're trying to determine what Rav Huna meant to say when he excluded this, or he omitted this, that is. He didn't mention this. And therefore we're proving dafka from what Rav Huna, that he said in the name of Rav, that taka regarding Kiddush, we do not paskin like Rav Yossi. Going back to the Mishnah said, Rav Yehuda Aimer, Tumtum, V'chulu. So the conclusion, what it said in the Mishnah on Daf Peyalef from Aleph was that a tumtum, which is a person that he's born, you don't see a siman, not of a zachar, not of a nekeva, but then the skin is torn open and you see that he's a zachar, but nevertheless, he does not do chalitza because he has the halacha like a sris, he can't have children. Rav Ami said, "My Avadle Rav Yehuda, the tumtum de Beiri." What would Rav Yehuda say regarding this tumtum of the city Beiri? Daisva be kursei. They sat him on a chair, v'ikra, and his skin tore open, and he was a zachar. And then v'ayelet sheva b'nin, he gave birth to seven boys. So we see that even the tumtum is not a sris. After if it tears open and we see he's a zachar, he can give birth. Rabbi Yehuda Amalei, Rabbi Yehuda would tell him, Chazayr al-Banav, go and interrogate regarding his children, Ma'ayanim, from where are they? They're perhaps not even his children, they could be children that his wife was Mazana and they were born from someone else. Tanya, in a brayse we learned, Rabbi Yosi Bar Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yosi Bar Yehuda said, Tumtum lo yachloitz, a tumtum should not do chalitza, Shema yikra, because perhaps his skin will be torn open, and v'nimtza sris chama, and then he will be discovered to be a sris chama, a sris from birth, which there's no chalitza for. Fragte Gemara, why is he saying this? Why does he have to say the reason there's no chalitza is because maybe he will be a sris chama? Atu called the mikra zachava. Does that mean that he's saying that any time that the skin will tear open, he will be a zachar? It could be he'll be a nekeva. That's what he should have said. And says the Gemara, Achikama. So this is what he meant to say. Shema yikra v'nimtza nekeva. He should not do chalitza because maybe if the skin tears open, he will be discovered to be a nekeva. That's the first point. And besides that, and ve'im nimtza v'afilo, the Bach takes out v'afilo, ve'im nimtza zachar, even if he's discovered to be a zachar, shema yimtza sris chama, he may be a sris chama, and therefore he can't do chalitza. So there's a difference here between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yosi and his father. Again, that was Rabbi Yosi by Yehuda and his father Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said that he should not do chalitza because the tumtum is, after his skin tears open, he is definitely a sris. So he can't do any chalitza. Rabbi Yosi by Yehuda says if his skin tears open and he's a zachar, so maybe he's a sris chama. So because maybe he's a sris chama, so therefore he should not do chalitza. So what's the difference between these two opinions? I mean, B'payel, my benayu. What's the difference? B'payel, according to both of them, you can't do chalitza. What difference is it if because we know for sure that he's a zachar, or if it's a suffix? So the Gemara says the difference is as follows: that Amar Rave, that Rave explained, livsoil b'makim achin. So the first nafkamina would be to passel other brothers of doing yibum. That is, if there's a woman that's now waiting for yibum here, and there's a few brothers, and one of them is this tumtum that the skin tore open, and we see is a zachar, and he went ahead and did chalitza. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, since he's definitely a sris chama, his chalitza is worthless or is pointless, and therefore the brothers can still go and be meyavemer. But according to Rabbi Yosi Bar Yehuda, it's a suffix. Could be his chalitza was effective. So after this chalitza, the brothers cannot go ahead and do yivum anymore. And also another nafkamina is v'lachloitz shaloi b'makom achin. Is it necessary to do chalitza if he's the only brother? There are no other brothers. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, no, he's a sris chama, so there's no mitzvah of chalitza here at all. But according to Rabbi Yosi Bar Yehuda, misafik, he, the only brother, should do chalitza. So the Gemara, Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Amar Rav Abba, Achuad Rabbi Yehuda Bar Zavdi, is a brother of Rabbi Yehuda Bar Zavdi, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. Androgenes chayav all of skila mishtei mekaymis. And for an androgenes, if he has a relation with a zachar, you'll be chayav skila whether he has a relation with this zachar, with the aver of his zachrus, or with his nakfus as an nekeva, he had a relation with this zachar. Either way, he's going to be chayav skila for mishkav zachar. Meisvei, the question was asked on this. Rabbi Eliezer said, Androgenes chayav and olav skila kezachar, and androgenes that has a relation with the zachar will be chayav skila like it is with the halach of mishkav zachar. But then he says, Bamed devarim amurim, when are you chayav skila? Bezachrus shaloi. Only if he has a relation with his zachros, with the aver of a zachar, like it is by Yari Mishkav Zachar. Aval ben nakvus shaloi potter. But if the relation with another zachar is with the aver of that he has, which is an nekeva, then it'll be potter. And I've said, Yechayev mishnei mekaymis, either way. And since the Gemara, Hudi Omar ki hai Tana, Rav here was pasking like the following Tana. The Tanya, we learned in the Braise, Rab Simoi said, Androgenes chayav and olav skila. With an androgenes, if he has a relation with another zachar, you'll be chayav skila mishtei mekaymis. Either way, if it's a relation with the aver of his achros or the aver of his nakvas, either way, you're chayav skila. My time at Rab Simoi. What's the source of Rab Simoi? Amar Rav Bar Hamduri. So Rava said, Bar Hamduri asbirali. Bar Hamduri explained this to me based on the pasuk that it says by the Isser of Mishkav Zachar. So the pasuk says, Ve'ezachar le'sishkav mishkave isha. That a Zachar, you should not have a relation with him similar to a relation with a woman. So it uses a plural term here, mishkave. What's the plural term of mishkave? A zeu Zachar sheyesh ba shnei mishkavais. Who is a Zachar that there's two ways how you can have a relation with him? Havaim is androgynous. This refers to an androgynous. And regarding an androgynous, we say that either way, the Torah is saying the Issa here and that Yechayiv skila for this. That's the source for Rab Simai, the plural term. The Rabbanan say, Avagav dis be'shnei mishkavais, even though, yes, there are two ways to have relations with a androgynous, but as Zachar ksiv. In the pasuk, it says as Zachar, which means that by writing as Zachar, it's coming to tell you that it's only the Zachar if he has a relationship like a Zachar. Then, and not with the Eived of the Nakfus, only then will you be Chayev Skila. The Rabbanon, so if so, now according to the Rabbanon, so the Gemara calls the Rabbanon here, which refers to Rabbi Eliezer. We pass like Rabbi Eliezer, that's what the Gemara says, Rabbanon. So the Rabbanon, that they say that when it says as Zachar, it's coming to teach me that even by an androgynous, where there's two mishkavos, as the pasuk says, mishkavei, but nevertheless, the Isser is only Zachar if he has a relation with the Eived of the Zachros. So if that's what this pasuk is coming to teach, Zachar greide minale, if it's just a Zachar, not an androgynous, just a Zachar having a relation with another Zachar, from where do I know that he would be Chayev Skila? Again, because according to Rabbi Eliezer, the pasuk Zachar Mishkaveh is speaking about a Zachar that has two Mishkaves, which is an androgynous. How do we know just a regular Zachar that it would be Aser? And says the Gemara, now the Bach changes the Girsa here in the Gemara, and the Bach says you have to be guided that you learn it out from mi ve'es isha, because it says ve'es isha, ve'es is adding ve'es, even a regular Zachar, this Isser applies to him as well. Now, regarding all the arayis that you're not allowed with those women, from where do we know that the isser of those arayis are not only kedarka, the normal way of relations, but even in an unusual way? So that's learned from, so the Bachir says, we learn it out, mi isha. It says over here, the word isha on the pasuk is extra. It could have said, ve'ezachar le'sishkav mishkevei. Why does it have to say Isha? So this is coming to teach me that regarding the forbidden relationships with an Isha, we also apply the plural term of Mishkevei, that there are two ways you have a relation, whether Kedarka or Shalai Kedarka, that either way, this is Aser. Amar Rav Shezvi, Amar Rav Chizde, Rav Shezvi said in the name of Rav Chizde, Loila Koil, Amar Rav Eliezer Androgyn Zacham Al Yehu. Not regarding everything, did Rav Eliezer say that we consider an androgynous to be 100% a Zachar. Shema Taime came because if you would say so, b'mukdash and yikdash, regarding hektish, if you'd be makdish a behema that also has two simonim of a zachar and a keva, behema which is an androgynous, so it should become hektish. And from where do we know that it does not become hektish? The Tana Rabbanon we learned in a braisa, and this braisa speaks about a bird that's being brought as a carbon. So it says a list of different kinds of birds that are brought as a carbon that are not really kosher for the carbon. Hanirba, a bird that a human being had a relation with it. Va'muktzeh, a bird that was set aside for Avodah Zarah. Va'neva, that was served as Avodah Zarah. Va'esnan, it was used as a gift for znos, or mechir, or was used as an exchange with a dog. This is the halacha of esnan zayna, mechir kelev. V'tumtum v'androgynous, or a bird which is either a tumtum and androgynous. Metamin begadim. So now, what do you do with a bird in the Beis Hamikdash? It was not shechted. It was melike, which is done with the nail of the kayin to cut off the neck. So therefore, it never had a proper shechita. So it's really an avela. So if it's a carbon, so by a carbon, the melika is the shechita that's done for it. But if the whole list here, which they're not kosher to be used for the carbon, so the melika is not acceptable either, so it's just an avela. So therefore, if you eat it, metamin begadim abeis habliya, it'll make you tameh, and when you eat it, it also makes the clothing you're wearing tameh. Rabbi Eliezer says, tumtum v'androgynous ein metamin begadim abeis habliya. The bird, which is a tumtum or an androgynous, will not make your begotten tummy and beis habliya, and that's because Rabbi Eliezer holds that by a bird, it doesn't matter if it's a zachar or an nekeva, so the tumtum or an androgynous will be accepted as a carbon, so the malika is good, so it's not an avela. Shahaya Rabbi Eliezer, because Rabbi Eliezer said, whenever the Torah writes regarding a carbon, there has to be either a zachar or a nekeva, so then atamaitzi tumtum vandrogynous mi beineim. So you have to take out, this excludes a tumtum or an androgynous, so by a behema, a tumtum or an androgynous cannot be brought as a carbon. But va'oif, when it comes to a bird that's brought as a carbon, since the Torah is not right regarding a bird, zachar or nekeva, tumtum vandrogynous mi beineim. So therefore, we do not exclude the tumtum or androgynous, and therefore, according to Rabbi Eliezer, they could still be a carbon, and therefore, if you do malika for the bird, you can eat it, it's not going to be a nevela. But we see here in this braise that according to Rabbi Eliezer, by a behema, which is an androgynous, it's not a vadei zachar regarding a behema. So therefore, not for everything that Rabbi Eliezer say that an androgynous is a vadei zachar.